dogs are very important. I believe all dogs go to heaven.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely do. Like, there's nowhere else for them to go. Like, I feel like dogs are better than people most of the time.
100%.
Like, I have the best therapist. She is great, but my dog has heard more of me crying and, like, been there for me more than any therapist or any person ever will be able to be there for me. And, like, they don't care, like, what you're saying or what you're going through, but they, like, sit there and, like, wag their little nub, or if they have a tail, they wag their tail, but Ollie does not. So he just wiggles his butt.
I know, they're so sweet.
And he just, like, he sits there and, like, makes you happy.
Testimony continued today in the most notorious criminal trial in Richland County history. Dr. John Boyle is accused of killing his wife Noreen and burying her body in the basement of his new home in Erie, Pennsylvania.
The 12-year-old son finally took the stand.
As I heard a scream, I heard a thud. It was about this loud.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty.
When I was 12 years old, my testimony sent my father to prison for murdering my mother. This podcast serves as a type of therapy and reconciliation for myself, and it is my hope that it helps anyone who has experienced deception, betrayal, and dark trauma. I'm Collier Landry, and this is Moving Past Murder.
Hey movers, welcome back to another episode of Moving Past Murder. I'm your host, Collier Landry, and what's going on? Happy Friday, everyone. I'm not going to lie. This has been a really, really tough week for me. As those of you that follow me on Instagram, you know, I do lives every week, but this week I did not do my live. I just didn't want to hear one thing. And that was, where's Blondie? I'm really sorry to tell you guys that my chihuahua, who was literally the light of my life, and I have had her since she was 10 weeks old. She was 4 months shy of her 18th birthday. She crossed over the Rainbow Bridge on Sunday, October 30th. You know, I had Blondie in my life for almost 18 years. And to put that in perspective, that is about 6.5 years longer than I had my own mother in my life. So she was a long time companion, and she was just the light of my world. And for those of my friends that were privileged enough to know her and saw how I was with her, they would say the same. And, you know, for those of you that watch on Instagram, I always posting videos and photos with her. And she was just really like the light of my world. So I'm actually surprised. It probably took me, honestly, about 40 times of rehearsing this intro to this episode to not cry, because I've been bawling for like 4 days straight. She just was, it's hard with animals because I think for me, when I was a child going through, the murder of my mother and the eventual arrest of my father, when I was taken out of my home, I was not allowed to take my dog with me, and Child Services said, hey, we'll come back and get your dog. And I never saw my dog again. And that is something that I probably, when I talk about trauma on this show, and I talk about, my instances from childhood and my experiences, I think that is something that I don't know if I've ever really recovered from, is losing my dog at such a critical time in my life. And I know I've talked about this before, and it's just never easy. And it was one of the hardest decisions I've made. But look, I had her since she was 10 weeks old, since she was a little baby. And I just, she had an amazing life. And up until probably the last couple of days before she crossed over, I just, she still had a really high quality of life. And even though she was almost 18, we would still take walks, a half a mile walk in the morning every single day. She was still spunky. And that's what makes this so hard, is that I watched videos of her just even a week ago, just being spunky, and then to lose her like that is so quickly. But I'm so grateful for all the time that I got to spend with her. And you know, Blondie came into my life when I was dating a girl, and we had another dog named Elvis that she had gotten, who was also a chihuahua. And Elvis had a slew of health problems. Elvis passed away a little over 5.5 years ago. And she wanted another dog, and for a friend for Elvis. And I had another ex-girlfriend that had gotten a chihuahua. And after about a week, she called me, and she was a cat person. And, you know, I got a phone call from her because I thought, oh God, she's a cat person. She got this chihuahua. This is not going to end well. And she was crying, and she's like, the dog cries, and, you know, the cat's not eating. And, you know, she was just really upset. I said, Pamela, do you want me to take her? And she said, yes. And that is my dear friend still to this day. I mean, Pamela and I dated 20 years ago. Still a friend to this day. I actually messaged her right to let her know that I was putting Blondie down. I thank you to Pamela Willis for bringing Blondie into my life, because she was the best dog. She really was. She had an amazing life, and I can't stress that enough. And look, this is a episode that really kind of diverts off from what my normal topic is. I'm going to bring on some friends. I'm going to bring my dear friend Terra Newell, who was actually there with me to help me put Blondie down. My dear friend Lenora Claire, who has a little min pin about Blondie's size. And then a new friend, Kelsi German, whose sister was murdered in Delphi, Indiana, and with her friend Abby. They just recently had an arrest in this case, but she talks to me about her dog and a dream that she had right after her sister was murdered. You know, we all just kind of share our little dog stories in this episode. So I wanted to just sort of share this in the memory of my dear Chihuahua Blondie. She was a Pisces like me. She was born on March 5th, 2005, which is just insane to me. But I do want to get to this week's listener question of the week, which is actually just a comment from YouTube based upon the video that I posted last week about the letter from prison from my father when he was in his first year, saying, get me out of this nightmare that he, of course, created by murdering my mother. And she says, this is Anna Santa Cruz. She says, as a survivor from a narcissistic psychopath, I watch a lot of true crime to help me understand how their brain works and to reassure myself that I wasn't going crazy. Like you said, they can convince anyone that the sky is pink and that the ocean is yellow. I would watch him do things, and I immediately ask him why he did that. He would always answer, I didn't do anything, and always in a nonchalant manner. We would go back and forth that way for a while until I would start to think that maybe he was right and I was just imagining it. I mean, WTF. I am an intelligent person, and how does that happen? I knew he was a liar, but why lie in the first place, especially over something that was so irrelevant? I would also tell him that I was not his mother and I was not going to punish him for telling the truth. He was never fond of that one. Well, Anna, I mean, I think the thing is that when you're dealing with someone who is narcissistic or has narcissistic personality disorder or psychopathy, like, they're never going to own up to anything they say, and they're never going to actually admit that they're lying because they've convinced themselves of it. I mean, I'm reassured of this. And I was just recently on Navigating Narcissism with Dr. Ramani, an episode with Terra Newell, where we were talking about not only my psychopathic father, but also John Meehan, Dirty John Meehan, who was also psychopath. And just the behaviors, the chronic lying, the deception of not only themselves, but then the confusion that they bring you in your world. And it makes you feel like you're going crazy. It really, really does. And, you know, it's so key, you know, even when I coach people through these types of behaviors that have dealt with this and dealt with this trauma, I just, I say, like, it does really, really help to hear from someone who's been through it, because you won't recognize it. I mean, I just had a dear friend reach out to me who's literally said, I'm an intelligent person and I didn't see this. How did I see this? How did I not see this coming? And why don't people talk about this? My answer to this is we are talking about it. Now we're talking about it. We're bringing it up in our circles of friends. We're bringing it up, on podcasts. And hopefully by exposing this behavior and sharing our stories, look, this is what this is all about, to share our experiences. And so you can't think that you're stupid or you've been duped by these people, because they're master manipulators. And you just got to know that. And my heart breaks for anyone that goes through this, because the cycle of deception, the making you feel crazy, it's just nonstop. So thank you, Anna Santa Cruz, for reaching out and sharing that. Again, I hope everyone had a very safe and wonderful Halloween, by the way. Please enjoy this conversation that I have with my friend Lenora Claire, Terra Newell, and Kelsi German regarding our dogs and our experience with having those dogs and how they've helped us, deal with trauma in our lives.
So I'm Kelsi German. My sister is Liberty German. She and her best friend Abby were killed in February of 2017. I started advocating for them in 2018 after going to a bunch of true crime events, and I immersed myself into this community and just started sharing their story. And from there, I just started doing tons of interviews and going to different events where I could share their story with tons of people. And I was able to do that for 5.5 years, and we finally got an arrest, so that was exciting. Now I don't have to do that as much anymore, but I've been helping other families along the way, so I'm looking forward to doing that some. And I continue to do this because my sister is my biggest inspiration. She just always has been, and I want to make sure that her light stays out there. She was the smartest person I know, the most outgoing and inspirational person I've ever met. She just loved making people happy and making sure they were smiling and having a great day.
Who's that?
There's a dog.
No thanks.
She let both of them in.
Aw. I just lost my little girl the other day.
He lost his little 17-year-old chihuahua.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I would be a mess. I remember when Tara lost her dog, I was like, I have to message her because I cried for her. I was like, I can't do it. If Oliver died, I would be like, yeah, I couldn't handle it.
It was such a blessing in disguise for me, because Cash has been through so much with me that his time on this planet has just been him taking care of me and making sure that he's my protector and taking care of the hell that I've been through, so I was happy in a sense that he is now somewhere where he doesn't have to do that, and he's just living his best life, Yeah. And then when I got Dixon, it's a different vibe. It's that dog, Dixon does have to take care of me at sometimes. He actually will come and sit on me and regulate my nervous system. Collier's seen it a few times. But it's just a different, this dog is so happy, and this dog doesn't have the trauma that Cash and I had,
Yeah.
So that, I'm super grateful for that.
Yeah. Ollie has been with me through all of this, too. I think I got him in 2019, so 2 years after. So he has been, I've always called him my gift from Libby, which is where he got his name, but that's a whole different story. But I actually had a dream of my sister, maybe in January, before I had even decided to get a puppy, way before. And it was of me and Libby on the beach, and we were sitting in these 2 chairs, and like a black dog ran out in front of me, and the waves, they just kept coming, and they kept getting bigger and bigger. And this dog was like up by the waves, and the waves took hold of him and like dragged him out into the water. And I was terrified. I was so scared. I stood up and I said, Libby, are we gonna go save him? Like, he's out in the water. Like, we have to go get him. And she just looked at me and smiled and said, it's going to be okay. And then I got Oliver like 3 months later, and he looked exactly like the dog in my dream. And I don't know why. I remember that dream so vividly, but I can see her face still. I can still see the dogs. I still see the waves. I can see the entire thing like a movie, like in front of me. And so he's always just been my gift from her, because I know that was her showing me him and also telling me that it was going to be okay. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like my
that.
little chihuahua Blondie like saved my life, in a lot of ways. She was just there for me. In so many ways, and obviously not through my trauma of what happened with my mother, but while I was making my film and everything that happened after, and as I continued on my journey. And like I said, she just passed away like 4 days ago, so I'm still really dealing with it. And yeah, she was 4 months shy of her 18th birthday, and she was great until like the last 4 days of her life. That she almost just like went off a cliff. It was just, she didn't go downhill. She just went. And it really, as Terra knows, it was so sudden, but I'm glad it was that, because she wasn't slowly deteriorating. She was good. We used to walk a half a mile every day, for a little 4-pound chihuahua, that's a long way, sometimes a mile. Yeah. So and everybody would look in the neighborhood and be like, oh my God, she's so wonderful. So,
well,
dogs are very important. I believe all dogs go to heaven.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely do. Like, there's nowhere else for them to go. Like, I feel like dogs are better than people most of the time.
100%.
Like, I have the best therapist. She is great, but my dog has heard more of me crying and like been there for me more than any therapist or any person ever will be able to be there for me. And like, they don't care like what you're saying or what you're going through, but they like sit there and like wag their little nub, or if they have a tail, they wag their tail, but Ollie does not. So he just wiggles his butt.
I know, they're so sweet.
And he just like, he sits there and like makes you happy.
They do like the whole body shake.
Yeah, like the whole thing, he just keeps going. We call him Wiggle Butt. So.
Oh my God. Okay. I feel like this is we could talk about dogs forever. So I'm gonna definitely, I'm gonna have to voice message you this.
So thank you both for joining. One of the things that I think really bonds all three of us is we have this love for our animals, and we, even though my trauma didn't happen with Blondie, I still lost my dog when my mother was murdered. When I was yanked out of the house by Children's Services, and I said, "What about my dog?" And they said, "We'll come back for your dog," and I never saw my dog again. And I think that part of that with me, so Blondie had a brother named Elvis. They were not from the same litter, but Elvis was like maybe 6 months older than her. And Elvis was a runt. He had an enlarged heart. He had issues with his luxating patella, and he had trouble walking from very early. But I kept Elvis alive, I think, almost because I didn't want to let him go. Yeah. And Terra, you were there, so when Blondie couldn't stand up right away to potty the other day and was almost walking like Elvis had walked, I said, I knew her quality, and I told myself, with Elvis, he was still very coherent. I mean, he tried to chase after a pit bull with his little nubby, the day that I put him down in Las Vegas. But he he was cognizant, whereas Blondie seemed like she was really fading in and out of that, and then just didn't have control of her legs for what I believe is a stroke. I just said, I'm not going to do that to her, because she had lived such an amazing life for those 17 and a half years. She had no health problems. I mean, it was incredible. I had no issues with her, and she was an amazing animal. And so anyways, all that to say this, I think that, Tara, you were there to say to me, this is the greatest gift that you can give an animal. And because they've been such gifts in our lives, and I wanted to talk about how all of that has impacted us. I know Cash was a special animal for you. Lenora, you had another dog before Nomi that was at a critical time for you. And I want to talk about how these animals are so amazing for us in these situations.
Yeah. Well, I had one therapist that told me that if I didn't have dogs in my life at a young age and all these animals, that I might be a bipolar or borderline. Because my mom and my father were workers, but I had a lot of nannies. So animals have always been my comfort and my constant affection and love. And my parents also are not touchy-feely. I've had to learn that in my adult life, even with my animals. And my dog Cash, he was around for 8 years of my life. He came into my life when I actually got hit by a car by an ex-boyfriend. And that was really when I needed a dog and this source of comfort, because he really became my source of healing in that instance, because I didn't go to therapy back then. I didn't know how to cope. So he was really my constant safety in a sense. And later, I believe he was like 5.5 years, or like around 5 years, when I was attacked by John Meehan. We've talked previously about that before on your podcast. Yeah. And so he's really been a protector all in my life. And, even to the moment where he passed, it's crazy. Like earlier, we were talking about how the fentanyl overdoses. My ex passed away that day from a fentanyl overdose, the one that hit me with a car. And Cash died the same day. So it was like a cycle of like, this dog did his job to protect me. And when this person went away, he went away with them to kind of, and I'm very spiritual. So I believe Cash went to the spirit realm to protect me from him, because I don't need his energy in my life, from my ex. And then I personally just have had dogs as, animals, and now I have Dixon, and he comes on my stomach and sits on my stomach and regulates my nervous system when I start to, get certain emotions. He actually knows how to gauge when I need space from him, or if I need him to sit on my stomach in that moment.
Witness that. He's great with that. It's interesting because when we were talking to Kelsi German earlier, and how she had the dream, after her sister Libby's murder, about the dog, and then the dog came into her life. And I don't mean to be hooey-dooey about this, but I even had met a dog medium who actually, of course, has a podcast last year, and asked her about Blondie, and she said she works with photographs, so I showed her some photos on my phone, because I only have about 500,000 of them of Blondie on my phone. And she said, she started telling me things that only I would have known, because this particular group of friends has only known me for about 5 years. She was talking about things when I first got her, when she was 10 weeks old, with an ex-girlfriend from another ex-girlfriend. And she said she came from not the girlfriend that you were with, but from another ex-girlfriend, correct? And I was like, yeah, how would you, there's no way that she would know that, Yeah. And I feel that dogs are very psychically connected to us in so many ways. I mean, Lenora, I'm interested to hear what you'd say about that.
Yeah, and I actually have like a weird dog psychic connection story too, and I'll get into that. My history is I grew up with dogs. I grew up with golden retrievers, very different than the miniature pinchers I have now. There's just something about min pins. They call them the king of toys. They're little dogs, you know, they're under 10 pounds, but they got so much personality. They're little maniacs. They're just right for me. But my first min pin, her name was Ellie, and my friend found her walking Hollywood Boulevard. She's about a 2-year-old min pin. She got the name Ellie because she peed on an Elle magazine. So then that was how she got her name. And I got her when I was 21 years old. I had a boyfriend at the time, and I basically just came home with the dog. Like, he didn't want one. I'm just like, this is my dog, deal with it, whatever. And I will definitely say that Ellie was there with me as I was becoming an adult. You know, 21 is such a pivotal time. And I really think she saved me from making a bunch of dumbass, stupid mistakes because I was always accountable. Like, I always had to come home. I always had to look after her. So I really felt that she was like my protector, my guardian, and just, you know, really kind of kept me in line. And unfortunately, what ended up happening with Ellie was my dad, who was my best friend, he passed away. It was really just so traumatic when I was 33. This is 2013. And Ellie, she passed 3 months later. And so I had a lot of regrets because I wasn't ready to let her go. And so that's why I was going to say, Collier, you really did the hardest but the most loving thing, you know? I have regrets. I like kept Ellie alive with IV bags. You know, I wouldn't do that now. So I learned a lot, but she got me through my dad's passing. And then I had a really, you know, when you go through double traumas like that, you're not in a great place. And I found people always know me from my stalking story, but I also am a survivor of sex assault and domestic violence different times in my life. And my DV happened after Ellie died, like right after, because I was in such a trauma place, you know, I wasn't thinking, and I let someone really awful into my life. And he assaulted me. It was pretty bad. I sustained like broken ribs on my left side. It was pretty awful. And I think it was it 3 days after my assault? I was home, and I was just in a terrible place. I mean, I was like the lowest of my life. And I get this call from a guy I don't even know that well. And he's like, you know, I read on Facebook that your min pin passed away, your female min pin. And I have a neighbor, an elderly woman who just passed away of a stroke, and she had a young female min pin that was with her for 3 days. I think you're meant to take her. And that's how I got Nomi. That's how I got her. So she came from that situation. And then even worse, 2 days after, she was hit by a car because she had never, I had her in her harness and everything, but she had never been out on like a street. She had only been in like a backyard before, and she saw a bus and freaked out and got out and ran into traffic. And anyway, so we're incredibly bonded. I got her through that. She had a broken hip, broken pelvis, you know, lots of surgery, but you'd never know now. You know, she jumps so high, and I've had her for years, but Nomi really was the dog that got me through all the stalking and everything. And I was gonna say the weird like dog psychic story. It's different than you guys, but my dad had a nickname for me. I was always like his little monkey. And right when I first got Nomi, I had like ordered a bunch of new things, and there was this dog toy that came along with it that wasn't like, I didn't order it, and it was a little monkey. And then I looked at it, and there was this other like weird little, it's like such a long story, this very specific, very strange word that my dad used to call me. And sure enough, on the little tag, that was the name of the monkey. And I just felt like I was like, oh my God, did he send this for me for my new dog? You know, like it was like this weird, it's like so, I never tell anyone that because it sounds so like crazy, but whatever. I took it to mean what I took it to mean. And it felt like a gift from my dad for my new dog. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I know, that's so cute.
Oh, they're just the best. You know, I think that a lot of people, you know, and I always used to call her my chihuahua child, as did many of my friends, right? And, you know, some people, and I get it, kids are your children, right? But for those of us that don't have like physical children, right? We have these animals that we let into our lives. And often people, you know, will say, well, you know, it's just a dog, right? And I feel like It's not. It's a living creature that looks up to you to take care of it. You take the responsibility. If you take that responsibility seriously, you take this responsibility to take on this animal, and then take care of it. And I think that's a really that's like having a child. I mean, they may not have they have a lot of, I feel like, human characteristics in a lot of ways, because they're able to look, they have left side bias and things like that, which is studies have indicated, which they can read emotions, hence Dixon coming to sit on your lap, on your stomach when you're having anxiety from trauma and things of that nature. I mean, I just remember all the joy that Blondie brought me, and
well, it's like, you got to get up for your dog. You got to get up to feed them. They remind you, So it's always like you have to like kind of do it for your dog. And especially if you have an Australian Shepherd, they're going to make sure you get up in the morning.
Well, and also dogs, it's that routine when you're going through trauma and you're processing trauma. Routine is ultimately what really helps you out of that trauma, right? And having an animal, having something that you have to care about that is outside of yourself, is something that is really key, I feel like, in your healing. I mean, obviously, Tara, you feel that way, right?
Yeah, no, I feel that way 100%, because when I didn't have a dog after Cash died, I would get up and then I would just walk in circles, because I was like, what is the next step to the day? I don't even know. Like, everything that was out of my routine is not there anymore. And that's when I took in a foster and I started fostering a dog. That dog was not the right fit for me, but it started to give me a routine again, and I was more so angry that the dog was, like, at the time trying to eat my ferret, where I'm not upset, at least, that I don't have anything to do that day, and eventually I got Dixon, and that was the right fit for me. But I constantly had like a foster to get me back into the routine, because I've been the person to always kind of had double dogs, because if one dies, I'll lose it, and I really have come a long way in my trauma, where I didn't lose it. I just didn't know what to do. I just didn't know the next step of my life without a dog.
Lenora, when you work with different, stalking victims or SA victims, do you find that when they have an animal that it really helps lead them through their process?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, like, there's so many stalking survivors that become borderline agoraphobic. They're afraid to leave. And, your dog, by nature of that, like my Min Pin, I have to walk her 5 miles a day, right? They're so incredibly helpful. Yeah. And one thing that also people don't realize with this kind of stuff, so my stalker tried to kidnap Nomi. And so I always tell people that 33 states, you can put your animal on the restraining order, which is really important to protect them. But as far as, what they provide, it's just unbelievable, right? What they do as far as safety. And at the worst part of my stalking, like, I didn't like to leave the house, but I realized I always felt safe with Nomi. Like, she literally helped integrate me back into society and dealing with people. And they're also a great buffer, like if you want to go, like I always take her with me, and it's like, if I don't want to talk to someone, I'm just like, oh, sorry, my dog doesn't like strangers, even though she does, it's like they just provide this like great comfort and support. And at the flip side too, when I'm trying to feel social, like if I'm struggling with that because of whatever's going on, it's like, I just, I always put Nomi in a little outfit, and like everybody comes up to me and suddenly I'm just like making them happy, and I've made 10 new friends. And people call Nomi like the mayor of this area, because everybody knows her. Like right now she's dressed like a unicorn, but absolutely. And actually one of the really great things, through my work with the district attorney here in Los Angeles, is they have a canine court support unit, which is so cool. They really mostly work with children, like a lot of children who are survivors of SA, and these dogs are incredible. I mean, they're so loving and empathetic and trained. And actually, the logo, it's a dog's paw in a little kid's hand. It's just like this, like the sweetest thing, and it's so incredible because and Collier, you get this because your trauma happened when you were young. When you're a kid and you're going through what you're going through, and you've got to be in court. I can't even, it's so hard as an adult. So seeing the canine unit in court with kids is just like, it's incredible. That's something people don't know they can ask for, but they can. In most big cities, they have some kind of program like that. Yeah.
That's amazing.
That was definitely one of the things I think that for me, being in that space for that limbo period of like no family, right? Losing my mother, losing technically my father, I mean, due to his own selfish, stupidity and psychopathy. But yeah, I would have given anything to see my dog. And I feel like in a lot of ways, I still kind of hold on to that a little bit. I mean, I'm sure I do. I'm sure in some sort of psychoanalysis, it'll come out. Where is that I didn't, my animal was taken away from me that I love so much at a time when I probably needed an animal the most. And the foster home that I was in, they didn't have any animals. They had no interest in bringing that animal in, my dog in, which was named Gowdy. And I think that, in fact, that's why I didn't get to see him, because they said, we don't want him. And I feel like if I had had that support, I probably would have been a lot better off. When I was eventually adopted, my adoptive family had a golden retriever who was named Rusty, and he was sweet as could be. And I can still remember to this day when my mother called me and told me about Rusty, that he was passing away, and I was on the phone with her, and she was really in a bad way, and she was waiting for my my brother to come up with my father from they were down in Florida on a job. And just even to this, like when I was talking to them the other day to say what had happened with Blondie, and they were just like, it's really tough even to this day thinking about that. Like they never got another dog again, and I feel like it's because they just become so integrated with your family, and then it's literally losing a loved one.
Nomi does this thing where if I cry, she licks my tears until I laugh. It's like, I know it's incredible. Like there's just this connection, right? Which isn't to say that, we don't connect to people, but it's just it's a special connection. It's just on this whole other level, right?
Yeah, and I think again, it's when you go through trauma like this, you want to bond with something that's not, because the human has harmed you, right? The human being has been that one that betrayed you, right, laid hands on you, violated you in some way, has this weird obsession with you. And the animal is just this sort of pure light, I feel. And the dogs especially have that pure light that they just want to be there because they want to be with you.
Yeah, they're just natural pleasers.
They're natural pleasers?
Natural pleasers. They're like, us.
Yeah, they're like us, exactly.
But way more, They're just like, I want to be there for you. I want to see you happy, I want to regulate your emotions, because when I see you unhappy, that means I'm upset too,
Terra, you and I were, obviously you were with me because I needed some support, and I'm like, Terra, please come here and help me. Because when I saw Blondie, like I knew she was going downhill, and I said, I want to, I'm going to have to take her in. And, it was so difficult to find a place to even take her in to euthanize her. And then they wanted all these extra, it cost a fortune to do it. And you explained to me that a lot of that is due because these places are overbooked, or they've closed down because of the pandemic. And unfortunately, I mean, what did you tell me about the pandemic with dogs?
Oh, that everybody decided to get dogs because, hey, we're at home right now, we can take in a dog. And then everybody started going back to work and dumped them at the shelters again. And even got like purebred dogs. And then, I can't work. So the dogs so there was an influx of dogs at the shelters. And now all the shelters are kind of overflowed right now, especially in California. And I know other states have this issue right now. I talked to Texas Humane Society in Austin, Texas, and they have an overflow of dogs. It's just everywhere right now.
There was something you mentioned earlier where you said even, and I believe it was Kelsi was saying these dogs that are in these situations in the kennels in these shelters, they only get 15 minutes of activity sometimes a day, and then they're in a cage the rest of the time. Whereas, you know, even somebody who said, well, I don't know if I can take care of them, I can't walk them. Even if you're letting them outside for an hour a day, that's way more than they're going to get in a shelter.
Well, it also even depends on how many volunteers that they have at the shelter. The dog may not even get out a day. Like, sometimes the dog will get on a little walk a day, but most of them are like pooping and peeing in their kennel because they're not coming out of that kennel unless they have volunteers for the shelters as well. And then there's certain dogs, like people will also drop their dogs off the shelter to get euthanized because they can't afford the euthanasia, or, you know, to euthanize their dog. And, you know, the process you went through, everybody wanted to charge around like $600. And shout out to
that would have been cheap.
Shout out to like Sherman Oaks Veterinarian, where they took her in. They charged
they were reasonable. They were reasonable.
Yeah. Even that, people can't afford something reasonable too. And so they'll put their dogs back at the shelter, and then there's a lot of these red alert dogs that have like cancer, tumors, and people also want to adopt those dogs out, which it's kind of a controversy because it's like people drop them off so to get euthanized, and then, you know, rescues will see that and be like, oh, we want to save them. And some rescues do have resources to save them because they, you know, specialize in that type of dog, where that vet may have been like not aware of certain things that they could do or whatnot. So it's just a conflicted situation right now.
I was saying the only fight I get into with Henry, and I think I've told you this, is I want to clone Nomi. I really want to clone her. And he's like, that's crazy. You can't do that. And I'm sitting here going, well, I'm ready for like Return of Nomi, Son of Nomi, Nomi's Revenge. I just want to keep, and he's like, no, you can't keep cloning Nomi. That's crazy. We're just so lucky to have them for as long as we do.
Yeah.
You know.
Have you seen The Age of Adeline?
No, what's that?
Oh, it's this movie, but she literally, like, she lives forever, but she keeps getting the same dog over and over again. Like, a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, and I'm not gonna lie, I've had a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, and then I got another one that looked exactly like my old one, and named her Chanel, Coco Chanel, and the one before was Chanel, just, you know, different Chanels, and the next one will be Chanel number 1, number 2, you know, number 5.
Chanel number 5 is my mother's favorite perfume, by the way.
Classic. It's like,
it is a classic one. So do either of you know of any shelters or resources if people are looking to adopt?
Yeah. So you can go on Pet Harbor. I think it's petharbor.org or .com, but if you do a Google search for Pet Harbor, you can go and you can look up any adoptable animals in the area, and you can go and you can choose like chihuahuas, border collies, anything like that, and you can look up all the rescues and the dogs that way.
Oh, a different resource I want to mention really quick too. It's slightly different. I just found out about them and they sound really cool. It's called Red Rover, and it's they do a lot. It's to help people who are in crisis, so they don't have to fully give up their animal. Like, let's just say like there's a hurricane or you're in a domestic violence situation and you're trying to figure your situation out, but you still want to keep your pet. They'll look after your pet temporarily until you get into a better situation.
Oh, that's awesome.
Ever since finding out about that, I'm like, I wish more people knew about that one too, because that's like really specialized. And I think a lot of animals, they end up going to shelters and people are they just need like a little help. They're not ready to fully surrender their animal. So that's something in between as well.
I would love to foster a dog eventually, but I feel like I would be a failed foster parent.
Oh yeah.
And there'd be another one, and then it would just become a habit.
Yeah.
Are you saying you can end up with 10 dogs?
Probably.
Oh my gosh. That would be my dream.
You guys heard of it's Trixie Mattel from Drag Race? She just took over a property in Palm Springs, right? So I used to go to it used to be called Coral Sands. It was owned by a woman named Ruby Montana. And that was exactly her thing. She would adopt senior chihuahuas. And so I would go to her motel and there'd be just like, I don't know, there's so many, just, the cute, the toothless, the tongue hanging out, senior chihuahuas in this, like living their best life. And I always thought like, that's what I want for retirement. I just want a bunch of just like senior littles, just give me all the, the min pins just hanging out with them by a pool. I just thought that was the sweetest thing ever. I always think about that and I love it.
I could see you with min pins all dressed like Dolly Parton. That would be a great cover photo.
Yeah, Nomi has the Doggy Parton dress. She has the one that just came out. It's awesome. Yeah.
Does she have the wig yet?
Parton.
Not yet. She only has wigs that look like my hair. With matching. It's a clip-on bang that I turned into a wig for her.
I remember I dressed Blondie as the Easter Bunny one year and she was not enthusiastic. But I used to have this great dog sitter when I would travel out of town that was also a costumer. So if it was like New Year's or Christmas or Thanksgiving or 4th of July, I would get a photograph with a little custom made outfit for Blondie. I could never get her to wear anything after that Easter Bunny outfit, but she would send me photos of her with her little like top hat on for 4th of July with little like streamers. And that was so adorable. Well, ladies, thank you for indulging me on a little doggy talk. And this is a complete divergence normally from what I discuss on this program, but I adore you both, and you're both great dog mamas, and thank you for your support this last few days. And it's been kind of hard,
and if you need anything, we're both here for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Yeah.
Or if you need a dog, if you need a dog,
you need a dog, right?
One might just show up at your door anytime.
Oh boy.
I'm not like, no, but like if you need one, just say the word and then one will show up.
I'm done. I know this isn't my usual podcast fodder, but I just really wanted to just talk with a couple of friends of mine. It's really helping me process the loss of Blondie because she was such an important part of my life. And anyone that's followed me on Instagram or seen my TikTok or just known me over the years that I've had her in my life. And I just, I'm so grateful that she came into my life and that she was amazing. I mean, the dog really saved my life in so many ways I can't even express. I will miss her and her little bark and her little when she would snore. I just loved her to pieces, and she will be really be missed. I want to give a special shout out to my dear friend Pamela Willis, who brought Blondie into my life. My dear friend Terra Newell, who was there with me for the end of her life. My dear friend Holly Jordan, who is a veterinarian here in the Los Angeles area, originally from Ohio, and a Chihuahua mom herself. She really gave us some really great advice towards the end of Blondie's life. She was there for her. And a shout out to Sherman Oaks Veterinary Group. They were very sensitive. It's tough when you're trying to put a dog down, to even get in to put a dog down these days because of the pandemic and because a lot of these shelters are overcrowded, as we were talking about. And so I want to thank them for their kindness, and I want to thank Blondie for being in my life. And I will miss her little fuzz face for sure, but I will carry her in my heart. And for those of you watching on YouTube, this is her little ducky. So anyways, I'm Collier Landry, and this is Moving Past Murder. Thanks, y'all. Blondie, what's going on?
This podcast is made possible by support from listeners just like you. Please subscribe via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible. Find us on YouTube, youtube.com/Collier Landry. The film A Murder in Mansfield is available on Investigation Discovery, Discovery Plus, and Amazon Prime Video. This podcast is a production of Don't Touch My Radio in association with RSA Entertainment. Please visit mpmpodcast.com to show your support today.